Welcome back to another part of our third-party DORA compliance explainer series. We have covered due diligence on vendors as well as contract management in previous episodes, and today we're going to dive into risk profile and uncover exactly what that means. So defining the risk profile for third parties can sometimes be a little tricky, and DORA makes it fairly straightforward, as is written in this article. So over here we can see that the overall risk profile and complexity, and DORA has put this in a nice A to J format, and I'm going to break that down for you quite quickly. And so the purpose of this article is to explain how financial entities should consider various factors that affect the risk complexity of using ICT, information and communication technology service providers, by third-party providers. And so the main key points here that you need to focus on are, number one, type of ICT services. So the policy should consider what kind of ICT services are included in the contract between the financial entity and the ICT party service provider. The different types of services may carry different levels of risk. So the person providing you printers might be completely different from the person or the company providing you an internet connection. And so you want to weigh them up based on the business process that they are connected to. And so that's your first specific area. The second key point is location. And so the location of the third-party service provider or parent company is important. This includes considering whether the services are provided within the same member state, so in the European Union, or another country outside of that, as it can affect regulatory requirements and risk levels. So be sure to identify the location of the service provider as well as where that data is stored. The third item, the geographical considerations. So it's crucial to know where the ICT services are actually provided from and where the data is being processed and stored. Services provided from different locations can have varying risks, especially if they are in countries with different regulatory standards. So identifying the location and being able to say, cool, I know where they're coming from, I know what they're doing with the data, and I know what their regulatory standards are. You need to know all of those items. And that will give you a different risk profile. Then 4, the nature of data. So the policy should take into account the type of data shared with the ICT third party, is it sensitive or critical or both, but the data may require more stringent controls and assessments depending on what it is. So if it is obviously sensitive or critical, you are going to have to put in additional controls around it. So, at rest, is it encrypted? Is it being kept anywhere? How is it being kept? So all of those items are going to be, the risk is going to go up for each one of those items. Number 5, group affiliation. So if the ICT third-party service providers are part of the same corporate group as the financial entity, this can influence the risk profile and complexity of the service providers, because obviously all your eggs in one basket, that might be a problem. So you want to be able to branch out, possibly. It might lower the risk, but again, that's a profile that you're going to add to the risk. Then number 6, regulatory status. Policies should consider whether the ICT third-party service providers are authorized, registered, or supervised by a competent authority in a member state, which is a European state. So what kind of regulatory status do they have, and are they regulated, and have they been signed off? If they haven't, your risk might change. Probably will change. And so it should consider if they are subject to oversight framework. And if they are in the oversight framework, is it specific to EU regulation? In that case, good for risk. In not, then maybe not, because then they won't be covered in certain areas that you might have to check that out. So additionally, the policy should check if the providers are authorized, registered, or supervised by a supervisory authority from a third country. So, okay, if they're in America, are they covered by another regulation? And what is it? And can I see the paperwork XYZ and what controls match with what? Again, regulatory status on 6. 7. Service concentration. The policy should evaluate if the concentration of the critical or important ICT services provided by a single or small number of ICT third-party providers, relying heavily on a few providers, can increase risk. So yes, make sure when you're adding that space or how many ICT providers are available. If there's only one, that's a massive risk. So yeah, the service concentration is another item to add to your risk profile. Number 8, service transferability. The policy should assess how easily the ICT services supporting critical or important functions can be transferred to another provider. This includes considering any technology specific factors that might affect transferability. So, if you have an internet connection provided by one provider, how easy is it to flip to another? And if that risk starts to increase based on service concentration or tying in with that vendor, that risk is then escalated quite quickly. So add that to your profile. And finally, number 9, impact of disruptions. So the policy should consider the potential impact of any disruptions on the continuity and availability of the financial entity's activities. Understanding this impact helps planning for the mitigating risks. So when you add your business processes and you add risk to that business process, you identify if it's critical or non-critical, and then if there is a potential impact on disruption. So you are a financial entity that provides credit or credit card transactions. Anything that has something to do with that credit card transaction is critical, and therefore, if they go down, there's an impact immediately. So, do you have high availability? Are you able to switch to another provider? Is it as easy as that? If that provider goes down overnight, can you do something else? And that's your final risk profile. So you take all of those 9, you weigh them up, and you make sure that you ask the right questions when weighing them up, and you get a complete third-party vendor profile for your risk. And so there you have it. Hope that helps you and helps you get your mind around the DORA implementation. And thank you for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.